Kulavanaka and welcome to another episode of For the Record. Tonight we take a look at the real estate industry in Fiji. It's said that it's going through a boom, and we will try and find out what's really going on in real estate and what is out there, what's available and what the challenges are. To speak about real estate in Fiji, we have the Chief Executive of the Real Estate Licensing Board, Mr. Ravinesh Murthy, in studio with us, as well as a long-time realtor from Jokan Realtors, Mr. Reginald Jokan. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us tonight. As we progress with the show, we expect to get an insight of what the industry itself is going through. But let's start from the beginning. Reginald, you're a long-time realtor. You've been in the industry for a while. Where exactly did this boom in the real estate industry start, and what triggered it?
If you go back to record and look at when the local agents were only in Fiji, the local agents always had kept in mind the local people of the country, and the prices at that time where actually you could afford a house at that time. Very rarely could you find a house over 350,000 in a decent area. However, since the time of these overseas real estate companies coming into Fiji, which was after 2002, 2003 or 2004, that's when you could see the increase in prices. So to be honest, to be frank over here, it always has, the prices have increased from the time these overseas agents were allowed to operate in Fiji. How were they allowed? Why were they allowed? Can something be done about it? I think the relevant authorities should look into that. If you go back and look at the record, you'll clearly see, you look at the sales data that the Lands Department provides. You can't see any sales at that time when we were into operation, any properties hitting over 300,000, and our children could afford it at that time.
Well, let's look at the industry as a whole. It's said that it's a reflection of the larger picture of what the economy is going through right now, and it's good for the country overall. Do you support that belief?
If you look at sales, who are the people that are selling? These are the people that are migrating. How does the country benefit from the stamp duties? Or these people selling their properties and leaving the country and going? Where is the money going? It's not staying back in Fiji. So how would Fiji benefit apart from the duties, apart from the legal fees, and apart from the agents that sell and pay the taxes? Remember, we agents, legal operating agents, pay taxes. So if you look at the country benefiting, that's a big question mark over there, because the money is not left in here.
Let's come back to that point later. Ravinesh, the Real Estate Licensing Board came into being because it was said that there was a lot of corruption going on in the real estate industry, more in terms of how people were just becoming real estate agents overnight without proper licensing and regulation. From what Reginald has said, from 2000 leading up to today, what exactly happened? Did people suddenly realize that there was money to be made in the real estate industry?
Yes, nowadays real estate agency business is a very lucrative business because there's a lot of high rise of sales of property and real estate. There's high rise of real estate market, but the problem also arises because of demand and supply. There's shortage of land and properties in Suva, and the demand is high. One of the reasons why the demand is high because a lot of people now can afford to purchase property. 10 years back, people were not able to get a loan for 100,000, like vast majority of people. But now, like vast majority of people can get the loan up to 250,000. But still, the property prices are high. And another thing we have seen, like there's a cost of building materials, cost of labor has gone up.
Would you say that it's okay to have the real estate prices market driven? Does the Real Estate Licensing Board have any policies on this, or is there anything you can do?
Basically, we cannot regulate the open market of real estate industry. However, we can regulate the scams which deemed to be happen because of the boom in real estate industry. What we are really concerned, like the valuation practice that's been going on, and the prices, like the valuation of the prices, and then other scams which happening, like middlemen making money, and which deprive the consumers.
We're made to understand, or it paints a picture that it's a good thing that the economy is going through a very, very good time right now. There's a lot of business happening, and there's a lot more spending power. People are able to buy property, which, as you said, was not the case earlier. And you, Ravinesh. Reginald, is that a true picture of what's going on in the industry?
Like Ravinesh just mentioned, it is there is sales boom, and it's a lucrative business for people that want to get into real estate ethically. If they do it properly, it's good business to go into, but not trying to being dishonest to the owners, and trying to make a quick buck here and there by cutting out other agents. It is good for the country, but like I just said previously, I mentioned, where does the money go? It's not staying back in Fiji until and unless we have a lot of investors that sort of keep buying properties here. Those people use the equity to buy properties. They have 2-3 properties, they use the equity, they go and buy the third one or the fourth one, fifth one. Those money, they still stay in the country if the owner is selling and living in the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's various aspects to buying real estate or owning real estate, but for the both of you, what is the ethical way or the proper way to move forward with real estate in Fiji, given that we're running low on space and there are more people wanting to own homes?
First of all, the consumers, they should not be purchasing property in a rush. Before purchasing the property, they should be given the proper consultation. They should be given the factual valuation price, and that's why I'm very concerned about the valuers. I think the consumers are very vigilant. They should, regarding sales and purchase, the signing of documents, and they should be buying the properties not at the bubble price, because what happens, like, for example, if the interest rate increases, and then the consumer will not able to pay the repayments, and it may end up in the mortgage sale. So they should be prepared for the rainy days.
All right, on that note, we have to take a quick break. When we come back, more discussions. We're talking about the real estate industry. Pula Vinaka, and welcome back once again to For the Record. Our issue tonight, the real estate industry, the boom or the bubble, as it's been said. What's really going on, and where is the industry heading in the future? Reginald, before the break, I posed the question, what's the proper way forward? Ravinesh has made a good point about valuers, but for you as an industry stakeholder, as a person involved in buying and selling property, what is the proper way forward?
I would agree to Ravinesh to a large extent on what he said, and I'd like to explain in the way an agent would do it. The best way is to get a valuation done. If a seller wants to get a property sold, he or she should get a valuation done from a reliable company. I don't know how the real estate, the valuers board works, because if you look at a property sale, this is how it happens. You want to sell a property, you go and get your engineer's certificate organized, because your house, without an engineer's certificate, the sale would stop at the 11th hour because the bank would not finance it. Then comes the picture about the bank. How does a bank finance it? Bank finances the property on the valuer's report. So if a valuer does not put that figure down, the bank will never finance. So if you look at the bigger picture, those people are to be questioned. How can they put a value to the house when the town council or the city councils, they have their own valuation on the land? How do we pay our city rate? There's a capital, there's a land value on that. But that does not come into play anymore because it becomes a developed property. But we still pay our city rate on the undeveloped property rates. However, the bigger picture over here is if and unless these valuers don't put their pen to paper and put that price there, the prices will never go up. On the other side, says it comes on the other way to look at it. There's cash buyers that will come and say, "Okay, I'll offer you the X amount of dollars. Don't worry about the valuation." But that's very rare. That's happening now with the intelligence money laundering unit. They're very much aware of things that are happening, and I think they have tightened the area where this was happening, where cash buyers would come up and buy the property cash.
There are some interesting stories about cash buyers turning up at houses, wanting to buy the property with X amount of money in their pockets. Is it true? I mean,
yes, you could say that is true, but that's where the money laundering agency should come into play. That's where the lawyers should come into play to say, where did you get this money? Immediately they should let the intelligence unit know that X amount of dollars is being brought in, this person is buying. But you know, if you look at the bigger picture, everybody wants to make their fees. So who's going to raise the flag up and say, listen, there's something wrong happening over here?
all right, I'll pause you there, Reginald. Ravinesh, when something of this nature does happen, when somebody shows up at somebody's house with large sums of money wanting to buy property, is there anything under the Real B regulations that can stop or monitor these sort of sales?
Because the Real B basically monitors the real estate agents, and one of the duties of the real estate agents is to reveal where the source of income from the clients coming from. And it's very important, and basically to the consumers as well. If they are dealing directly with the purchasers, then they should also know that they have to report to the financial intelligence unit, or either they can report to Real B or the nearest police station.
What happens when this sort of incident does happen? It may be all legitimate, above board. There may not be any need for investigation. But if somebody turns up with cash on hand to buy a property, how does that affect the standard of prices in a certain area? Because, as you said, there was a time there would be very few properties above $350,000, very few, very elite properties. Now this seems to be a sort of standard price in prime locations, in urban centers, mostly in Suva. Is this current prices a real reflection of property values?
Yes, that's where we have to consider that the sales data comparison. Like basically the valuers, when they value their properties, they compare the sales data of the particular street, the neighboring houses. And what happens, like, I think the valuers should be also vigilant, like the type of sales, whether it was cash buy, where the source of income came from. Because, for example, if that property is worth 300,000 and someone buys it for 500,000, then the next door they'll be obviously selling the property for $500,000. But in fact, we know, like, if we carry out proper valuation, then the property will eventually comes to 300,000. But then the property owner will argue that that property has been sold for $500,000. Then it should be fair that my property sells at 500,000 as well.
Do you agree with Ravinesh?
To a large extent, once again, yes, I'll agree with Ravinesh because he has real estate experience. But that's once again, the question arises is, how did the money come into the country? I don't think the intelligence unit or the money laundering division would know about 500,000 coming into the country, because you've got to declare it in the port if you're bringing it in cash, or the banks over here, the financial institutions, would need to clear that money. So it's very hard if it comes into the proper channel.
Mm-hmm. But it was happening previously. Are these rumors about foreigners turning up at people's houses? Have you found even a single incident of this to be true?
I have had cases where people would say, "I'll give you give a deposit of X amount of dollars, cash, which would be about 20,000, 25,000, as a practice in our company." And I think that all the companies should have this practice. Real estate companies, they should not hold the deposit in their account. They should immediately have a lawyer, a solicitor, a company where the deposit should go into. That's the proper way of doing it. You'll find that at one stage, people who did not want to deal with real estate agents. Reason, these people were taking money and pocketing it, the deposits. They would not refund the deposit. So, if you look at these cases where people are coming in with cash to buy properties, obviously they'll give a deposit. They won't give the lump sum straight away. So, the deposit should go into a solicitor's trust account, and that's where you start monitoring where the money came from, how, what channel did it come into the country. Because, I think, even Mr. Razim Bak should clear this, that people can't just walk in with 500,000 or even 100,000 through the airports. So, that's a bigger picture of looking at. There have been cases, I must agree, that people have come up with cash, but those people have lived in the country for a certain time. But I haven't come across a case where people have just come up with half a million and say, I'll buy this, I'll give you cash.
All right. On that note, we must take another break. We'll be back after this very short break. Good evening. Welcome back to For the Record. We're talking about real estate industry, the boom, the demand, the supply, and the money going around. In studio is the Real Estate Licensing Board Chief Executive Ravinesh Murthy, and from Jokan Realtors, Mr. Reginald Jokan. Carrying on with our discussions, the way I see things from what we've discussed so far, it would appear that real estate prices have escalated, and they are continuing to escalate. As you've mentioned, property valuations is one factor, but how much is demand driving these prices? Because the banks are offering very good interest rates. People have the power to own property, to own their own homes, a lot of them for the first time. So how much is demand factoring into this? I'll give you the first go.
According to the housing demand survey analysis, there was vast majority of people, the demand for properties was below 150,000. But unfortunately, the demand for the properties is surrounded in basically near the Suva city area. And what if we see the country as a whole, like there's a less demand of property, purchasing of property in Ba, Tavua, or northern side, but the demand is basically escalated in Suva. So what is happening now, like because of people cannot afford to buy properties in Suva, there need to be more subdivisions be developed near Suva area. And the place that is like a lot of people now desiring to stay is Nasino. And we as far as we know that there's about 400 lots coming up from Housing Authority. But still there is a lot of demands for properties, and there's a lot of demand for different type of properties as well. Because what happens, like some people likes to stay in the apartments, and some people likes to stay in like big compound houses. So it's very difficult to cater for those demands because God won't be developing more lands.
There's only a limited amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Reginald, demand driving prices.
Comes down to the valuers. Demand driving prices. I feel there is a demand, I agree. And if we can fulfill that demand, but at what price is the question. What price do we fulfill that demand? I can't see the people looking out there to our program today not agreeing with me on saying that their children will not be able to buy properties in Fiji, in Suva, in Nasinu. I can't.
How far down the line are you talking about? Are you talking
I'm
about
talking
2
about
years, 10 years?
Now, you tell me, how many people out there can afford a $500,000 house, a $350,000 house? Look at what Pepek there. They'll end up all living like the government is making those PRB rental properties. They'll all end up living there. But do those families want to spend the rest of 20, 25 years, 30 years living in those 1 or 2 bedroom places? They all have the desire, like he said, the vision to go and live in a house, to go and have a nice compound, to see the grandchildren running around. The demand is there. It's driven by these unrealistic prices. It's once again pen to paper. You put the price down, then the bank finances it. So it all comes down step by step. But the sad part is, will our children be able to afford it? The people out there today listening to your program today, listening to this program today, must understand that they need to do something. The government of the day needs to do something. We need to put in, bring in regulation, but not only bringing in regulation, but policing the regulation is very important. We can develop a regulation today, a entire regulation how it should be done, but policing it is important. I mean, it's sad. It's very sad what is happening to Fiji, because very few. There's a handful of people that earn over $150,000 in
Okay,
salary.
that brings me to my next question. Actually, Ravinesh has also said that most of the people are looking for homes around the $150,000 mark. What would you, as an industry stakeholder, say I could get for $150,000? What sort of house and where today?
You could start looking at the housing authority subdivisions for land. I understand they're selling some parcels of land for $80,000. I mean, what are they catering for? Am I right there when I say that price? $60,000, $80,000 lots, the new subdivision. Well, I mean, which market?
Is that an accurate estimate?
No, like they have actually have stages of development. First development was for upper market people, and that was above 80,000. And I think the second stage, which is coming up, is below 60,000.
But once again,
All right. So,
but once again, $60,000 just for the land, right? So I have people in Nandawa wanting $150,000 for their house when they bought those parcels of land for like $15,000, $20,000 in those days when housing was subdividing the lots there. They want $150,000, $180,000, and there has been sales. You can go back to the record. There have been sales.
at the prices.
At the
you've
prices,
quoted.
yes, at the prices that I am saying.
And it's not as if the prices will ever go down. Once you have made a sale at that value, you've basically set the price for the entire neighborhood. What happens then? Is that what's actually happening?
Yeah, I agree with you, because what happens to the person who purchases the property, he pays interest. And even though he pays the property maybe $400,000, by the time he pays off the interest, he may be paying up to $250,000. So no way he will be selling that property anything cheaper than $200,000.
So what options remain for these bulk of people who aren't necessarily the elite or high income earners, who can afford anything up to $150,000 apart from housing authority lots?
One of the problem of this scenario is because of urban drift, rural urban drift in Suva. And that if you notice that there is about one third of the population is living in Nosori Suva corridor. So we have to go to back to the basics, why these people have moved from Vanua Levu, from Western divisions to Suva. And there needs to be more development in north, in Vanua Levu, and even in western side, because we have a lot of land in Western division, Eastern division, and even Vanua Levu side. I think the government have started doing that look north policy, and plus with a lot of tax incentives for the investors in those areas. So I think the best idea for now is like development in other places. Only then we can move people from Suva to those places, generate more industries and employment.
All right, I'll pick on that point a bit more, but that's going to have to wait because we're going to take another break. We'll be right back. Real estate prices, demand for land, the prices, and what's out there. That's what we're discussing tonight on For the Record. Now, before the break, I asked, Ravinesh was making the point about the rural-urban drift and the need to develop land outside of the urban centers. Is that a viable option?
I think he's brought in a very good point where the government of the day should look into these investors coming into the country. They should all go into these allocated areas and buy properties there. They're quite cheap. The government is giving the land bank system, and the agricultural land is reasonably priced. So these investors that come into the country, be whoever they are, they should buy land from those areas. We shouldn't. The government of the day should look at second home buyers. Should only be reserved for the people of Fiji,
Right,
the Fijians.
That's an interesting point as well. But do real estate companies get a lot of queries about people wanting to buy agricultural land, maybe?
Out of probably 10 investors or 10 people that come in just for maybe a visit to Fiji, they'll call and they'll say, do you have a villa? Do you have a beachside property? Out of the entire, say, 10 that are inquiring there, there'll maybe only 1 or 2 saying, do you have farmland? Because we'd like to come into farm, but very few, very, very few. And we have in our listing in the company has abundance of farmland. I have a couple of the largest parcel of farmland in Fiji, but there's very few people that want it. You know, if you look at it, Mr. Murthy has brought in a very good point, and I once again would like to, request if the channel's going through to the right people are watching it, to bring in regulation whereby investors go into those areas and are allowed to buy in those areas only. Forget about the developed areas. Forget about Suva, Lutoka, the developed cities, Singatoka for that matter, Let the locals, let the people that have worked in this country, that have paid taxes in this country for many, many years, let them reap the benefit out. Why do we give all the benefit out? Because somebody comes in with a bag of money and we say, okay, you can take this. I mean, that's realistic.
Yeah.
That's been...
Well, you basically, the way you're talking, it sounds as if we're heading into very problematic areas, but I want to find out from the Real Estate Licensing Board, if you look at it holistically, are we seeing a situation where foreign investors or people from overseas have more buying power than locals?
Obviously, there is a lot of buying powers for foreign investors, but one thing we have to differentiate is like the demand for the locals is mostly below $250,000 houses, below $150,000 houses. So there's a competition among the locals as well, and that is basically because there's a shortage of land in Suva, shortage of properties in Suva. I think the best probable solution is like the foreigners to develop more land, do more investment outside Suva.
And so that's what Reginald was pointing out to, maybe heading into agriculture or properties where there are no homes. But that would require legislation, I understand.
Yes.
And what sort of, do you have any examples? Is there something that's done overseas where foreign investors or property buyers have certain policies and requirements as to what they can buy and what they can't buy? Is there any examples that we can pick?
There was some legislations in Queensland. What happens, like whole agricultural land are basically reserved for the farmers, but compared to Queensland, the farming industry is very boomed. Like a lot of people doing farming, and it's a lucrative business. But compared to Fiji, like we lack farmers, we do not have enough people who want to work in farmlands. So if we put those policies, like we develop our farms, and like we basically commercialized farms, then we can generate income and push people to stay around those areas.
Well, we've sort of strayed on to another issue with regards to real estate, something that a lot of people may not realize. But just going back to the issue of home buyers and property ownership, since the Real Estate Licensing Board came in, there's been a lot of stability, let's say, in the industry. Before, when there was very little regulation and licensing, there were a lot of scrupulous operators, people who were just out to make a quick buck. What's the sort of competition level right now among real estate companies, and how much is this contributing to setting the prices for homes?
Overall, I think the real estate agents are doing very good. Professionally, they're selling properties, and it makes very easy for the property owners and even for the investors as well, because most of the real estate now are very qualified and professional. They know about the industry, they know about the property market. They actually give right advice to the people, and because the real estate agents always work for the property owner, the vendor of the, and what happens, they have to work for the highest and the best price for the property owner. So in terms of that, the level of professionalism of real estate industry has actually improved.
Reginald?
I would say there's still certain people out there practicing real estate, doing deals behind the backs of real estate companies. But there's an important factor over here. The owners need to understand that the invoice, the sales commission invoice, when we give a owner, he can claim that as an expense. which the owners don't understand. Sometimes, so there's certain agents that will walk away with do a deal and are happy with a couple of $1,000s, So but because they're happy, because they don't pay tax, the government loses out. The government of the day loses out. And there are still today, there are agents out there doing this. The important factor over here is, to be honest, when a sale is done, until the sale closes, an organization like RealB should monitor that. Who got paid, what was the fees, what was the legal fees, what was the stamp duty. It's a bigger picture of the entire deal happening, which is important. See, if the RealB organizes themselves in that way, monitoring every sale, or the government looks at organizing a body that monitors every sale, the government will make money. Because if a real estate agent makes a commission, he or she pays tax. VAT plus at the end of the year tax. We pay that.
All right. Can the RealB do this? Should RealB be doing this? And are you doing this?
RealB is actually bounded by the Real Estate Agents Act. And there's always room for improvements. We always implement new policies. We suggest new policies. By next year, we should have massive amendments of the Real Estate Agents License, Real Estate Agents Act. And during those period, we'll invite the real estate agents, even Mr. Jock and stakeholders to give this suggestions, and there will be body, most likely the economic analysis of the Department of the Government will work on that, and they can bring up with those amendments.
All right, we'll take. Okay, carry on.
But one point I have, implementing that is good. Like he's saying, he's going to implement it. Policing it, looking after each sale, that is important. The lawyers need to be looked after. How much money came in? What was the payout? Because the lawyers are the ones that do the payout. Who did they make the check out to? That is very important. When the check was made out to, was it made out to a licensed real estate agent, or was it made out to an individual? Was it a cash check, which trust funds should not do? Any legal firm should not make a cash check out, which is under the policy they're not allowed to, which I understand. Yes, if that is done, imagine the money the government will make.
All right. On that note, it's time for another break. We'll be right back. Welcome back once again to For the Record. We're drawing to a close of our show tonight. We've been discussing the real estate industry in Fiji. Ravinesh, Reginald has been making quite a few points about monitoring and policing the sales of properties. For you, would you want to be involved in this? Would you want to see acquittals and the processes and procedures followed in every transaction? Do you think that's the amendment that should be coming in?
It's basically what happens for the lawyers, they need to submit their audit reports to Legal Practitioners Commission. And likewise for the real estate agents, if they're obtaining a deposit in their account, they have to audit their general accounts as well. However, we can go to that extent if need arises.
So there is provision there still?
There is provision.
I think the need is there. Every transaction done, if the government of the day wants to make that extra thousands of dollars, the government of the day needs to understand, they need to monitor from the start till the last dollar was paid out.
So how much do you think, what's your estimate, how much is the government losing out?
They're losing out thousands and thousands of dollars. They are losing out thousands and thousands of dollars because, like I mentioned, we registered legal operators, we have been registered with RealB, have registered agents, we pay fees to RealB, we pay VAT, we pay tax. Do these people pay? They don't pay. And these are the same people that could be part of the hiking of prices in Fiji. Because the owner wants that extra dollar, he pays less, he avoids his taxes, the agent gets his cash, not to worry, deal done, happy, everybody's happy.
Would you sell a property or would you market a property knowing that that's not the true value, but that's what's on paper, that's what the valuer has given, and that's what the property owner wants?
If a valuation report comes into play, it comes to us, and we look at the valuation report, and the owner says, this is what I want, 480. The value is 500. He wants 480 as the last price. We look at the property and we say, oh, he's lucky if this guy gets 400. So what do we do there? We take offers to the owner and say, listen, this is the best offer we've got. However, there can be another agent that cuts in between and says, listen, Jokan is selling it at 400, I'll get you 420 or 450. That is saying fair market play. These companies, even being registered, are not playing the fair game. They are chipping in. Agents are putting their board, other companies are coming in and talking to the owners and saying, listen, I'll get you that 20,000 more. I'll get you that 30,000 more. You pay me X amount of dollars.
No, there's nothing illegal there, is there, Ravinish?
There's nothing illegal, but what we're trying to do, like we're trying to introduce first the code of ethics for the real estate agents, which will be coming soon. And second stage we'll be introducing causes for real estate agents through FNU.
I disagree to him saying that's nothing illegal there. There is illegal. I have a signed sale agreement with the owner.
There's a contract.
There's a contract in place. But the owner, other agents come in and start talking to the owners. I have cases. He has cases where I've officially reported. There was one recent case where I was selling a property in Domain. And this company, who have another overseas company that have started operating in Fiji and are bumping up the prices, started approaching the owner. And the owner told me, and we went to the Real B, and Real B obviously sent him a warning again. I think they should be terminated. These companies should be terminated.
Because we are bounded by the Real Estate Agents Act, and according to the Act, we cannot take that action against that particular real estate companies who try to influence the owner to give the properties to them. But we know there is a problem arises with those. We have received a lot of cases, and we are trying to, when we will be doing the amendings of the Act, we try to put those provisions in. I understand there are a lot of problems where a person is agent has exclusive rights to sell the property, and then the other agents come and try to offer the owner that.
Was this something that wasn't envisioned when the Real Estate Act was made? Undercutting of one person's contract. I'd like to Ravinish too.
Yes, there's still rooms for improvements, and we know those kind of problems arises, and legally we cannot take any actions against them. So
is it a cutthroat industry?
It is a cutthroat industry, and RailB needs to wake up. RailB needs to be given more powers. I understand before they would be able to take agents to court directly, but now he says the regulation has changed. So the government of the day needs to look at that. It needs to give RailB, needs to give the CEO more power. Mr. Murthy needs more power in his hands to deal with these illegal operators.
All right, so everything that we've discussed tonight, the issue of foreign investors coming in and going into the agriculture sector rather than home buying, the issue of strengthening the laws and regulations, the issue of monitoring sales, all of this, when we put it all together, Ravinish, what sort of situation are we looking at in terms of home buying and home ownership? And the ability of people, the power of people to buy and own homes. Give me an overall picture of everything we've discussed, if it all were to come into effect.
Like even like rate of return, like people when buying properties, they need to know the rate of return, the amount they are purchasing the property, whether they'll have the resale value of the property, whether they, in case they put their property in rent, they're able to pay the repayments through the rental income. So, but rate of return is not necessarily good in Suva. They can get a better rate of return in Lotoka. They can get a better rate of return in Ba. So, property investment, like it can happen anywhere in Fiji, as long as the person gets a better rate of return. In real estate terms, when people say when you get a rate of return of 10%, it's a very lucrative business. It's a very good rate, and if you're getting a rate now, if you get a rate of 8% is still even good. But if you're getting a rate of return of 5%, then you should not be buying that property at all.
All right, last question. Reginald, everything that we've discussed tonight, if all these improvements are put in, what are we seeing in the future, very quickly, for home buyers? Just a quick question.
I hope that the government of the day comes into play and starts looking at protecting the low buyers, the people of the country, by taking those investors out of these developed areas, putting them, giving them bigger parcels of land to buy, much cheaper rate, and let them develop that place. Our forefathers have developed the places that have been developed now, and let the children enjoy these places now.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I think we've had some very fruitful discussions, and we hope to see you again sometime in the future. That was the show tonight. Remember, for questions or comments, you can email us for the record at fbc.com.fj. We'll be back again next Sunday. Until then, good night.